Good day, everyone. Today we will continue our discussion with St. Thomas Aquinas' philosophy. And if you remember, last time we've tackled about his five ways of arguments, presenting arguments about the existence of God. It can be seen through the argument from motion, which says that God is the prime mover or he is the first mover and caused the movement of all creations in this world. Okay. The next is the argument of causality, which is similar to the argument from motion. It says that God is the prime causer and all possible scenarios and situations can be connected with the first causer, which is God Himself. Okay. Like the first argument, God Himself is the unmoved mover and the unmoved causer because He alone has the power to initiate movement and causes to everything. The third argument has something to do with argument from necessity or contingency. Okay? It says that there is a time wherein there is a necessary being and contingent being. We are regarded as contingent being and our existence depend on the necessary being, which is God. Like the analysis of St. Thomas Aquinas' argument, the concept of infinite regress is not possible because if we tend to uh, accept the concept of infinite regress, therefore we tend to accept that there is no beginning and we cannot define the starting point of everything. That's why to uh, set up everything into a formal process, therefore we should determine the creator responsible for the existence of everything, which is God Himself. The fourth argument has something to do with the argument from degrees, also known as argument from gradation or exemplarity. We are all aware that in this concept, God Himself is the perfect example where we can use as the measuring tool and or a measuring or a basis for comparison of everything. Since God Himself is the perfect being, He is the a perfect example in which humans can achieve characteristics to be godlike or at the same time follow attributes or theological virtues or virtues that came from God. The last argument is what we call the argument from design. Okay? It is also known as teleological argument. It says that God is the perfect and intelligent designer, and God put an end or uh, created us serving our purpose in life. Okay, so to continue the philosophy of Saint Thomas Aquinas, today we will tackle about the natural law. Okay, so Saint Thomas Aquinas' philosophy uh, depends heavily on Aristotle. St. Thomas Aquinas is also known as an angelic doctor and the prince of scholastics. He lived from 1225 to 1274, an Italian philosopher and theologian who ranks among the most important thinkers of the medieval time period. In ethics, Aquinas depends on the philosophy of Aristotle. And like the Greek philosopher, Aquinas believes that all actions are directed towards ends or purpose, and that happiness is the final end. Aquinas thinks that happiness consists in activities in accordance with virtue. But like Augustine, Aquinas declares that ultimate happiness is not attainable in this life, for happiness in the present life remains imperfect. True happiness, then, is to be found only in the souls of the blessed in heaven or in beatitude with God. Therefore, our actions that we must do should be patterned or modeled by the virtuous persons or people who demonstrated virtues, may it be moral or theological virtues. Okay? The center of St. Thomas Aquinas' philosophy uh, also deal with these virtues. We are aware that wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice are virtues that are thought and can be rooted from the ancient Greeks. However, we also have faith, hope, charity, love, grace, mercy, and forgiveness, and honor as virtues that are taught to us in Christianity. Okay? Now, uh, s- central also in Aquinas' ethics is his typology of laws. By the term law, he means an ordinance of reason for the common good, promulgated by someone who has care of the community. Although in the present time, law can be a political and a legal term, but serving its purpose for the common good is similar to the definition given by St. Thomas Aquinas. Okay? Aquinas' law should also be understood in terms of rules and measures for people's conduct and as rational patterns or forms. Obedience to the law is thus viewed also as participating in or being in conformity with the pattern or form. So when we abide by the law, therefore, we are uniting with the people for the common good of all. We participate because we believe that these laws can give us benefit and can protect us from all abuses. Therefore, law is um, law signifies uh, civilized living and highest form of participation for the common good and the welfare of all. Okay? Now, for Aquinas, there are four primary types of law: the eternal, the natural, the human, and the divine. So let's discuss each typology. So first, we have the eternal law. The eternal law refers to the rational plan of God by which all creation is ordered. As God is the supreme ruler of everything, the rational pattern or form of the universe that exists in his mind is the law that directs everything in the universe to its appointed end. To this eternal law, everything in the universe is a subject. So when we say eternal law, we are referring to the law provided by God. Okay? It is God's law that we should follow. Okay? Uh, the second type is what we call the natural law. The natural law is that aspect of the eternal law. So at some point, characteristics of natural law can be attributed to the eternal law. However, uh, it, the natural law is more attuned with human reason. Because mankind is part of the eternal order, there is a portion of the eternal law that relates specifically to human conduct. And this is the moral law. The law or order to which people are subject by their nature, ordering them to do good and avoid evil. So, uh, natural law or moral law can also be subjective because it can be influenced by how a person or a group of person or people influenced by his or their community. So it is subjective in all societies. Okay. The next is what we call the human law. It refers to the positive laws. For natural law to be adhered to, more exact and forceful provisions of human law are helpful. Because the natural law is too broad to provide particular guidance, the human law's precise positive rules of behavior are supposed to spell out what the natural law prescribes. Okay? Moral virtues is also reinforced by and cultivated through these human laws. This human law includes the civil and criminal laws, though only those formulated in the light of practical reason and moral laws. Human laws that are against natural law are not real laws, and people are not obliged to obey those unjust laws. That's why if there are laws uh, promulgated against the natural law, for example, in some conservative societies, they criticize progressive and liberal countries who passed laws like same-sex marriage, abortion, or even the concept of euthanasia because these laws are against the natural order and natural process of living. Therefore, they are not considered as real laws in the point of view of conservatism. The fourth one is what we call the divine law. It serves to complement the other types of law. It is the law of revelation, disclosed through sacred text or scriptures, and the church, which is also directed toward man's eternal end. Okay? Though concerned also with eternal external aspects of conduct, the divine law is more focused on how man can be inwardly holy and eventually attain salvation. So divine laws are laws that are provided to us by our religion. We tend to have a different form of divine laws because of the differences in religious teachings. Okay, so obviously, uh, the type of law that is primarily significant in ethics is the natural law. And part of this natural law is our inherent natural tendency to pursue the behavior and goals appropriate to us. So, according to Aquinas, this natural law is knowable by natural reason. For instance, our practical reason naturally comprehends that good is to be promoted and evil is to be avoided by virtue of a faculty of moral insight or conscience that Thomas called synderesis. We also have natural inclinations to some specific goods. Aquinas enumerates three sets of these inclinations. So, to survive, to reproduce and educate offspring, and to know the truth about God and to live peacefully in society. These prescriptions to have families, love God and our neighbors, and pursue knowledge are but rationally obvious precepts and simply stand to reason. Grasping the prescriptions of the natural law and using our practical reason are necessary in determining which means will direct us to our ultimate end. Accordingly, this concept helps us to in judging some deeds as moral or otherwise. The principle is simple. The closer an action approaches our end, the more moral it is. The further it departs, the more immoral. Concerning, for example, sexuality, Thomas, for instance, argues that its ends involve procreation within the bond of marriage, and unifying the married couple. From that principle alone, it is not hard to judge fornication and adultery as immoral, since both acts never serve to fulfill the above mentioned purposes. And using the same principle, homosexual affairs for Aquinas would be obviously unjust as well. Uh, it is, as I mentioned, it is against with the point of view of liberalism and progressive societies who adhered and considered same-sex marriage and other laws that against the natural law as acceptable. Now, uh, Aquinas evaluates human actions on the basis not only of their conformity to the natural law, but also of their specific features. He mentions that at least three aspects through which the morality of an act can be determined in terms of its species, accidents, and end. So to define, the species of an action refers to its kind. It is also called the object of the action. Human deeds may be divided into kinds, some of which are good, for example, improving one's own property, and some are bad, like theft, and some indifferent or neutral, like walking in the park. Aquinas holds that for an action to be moral, it must be good or at least not bad in species. The second is accidents. Simply refer to the circumstances surrounding the action. In ethically evaluating an action, the context in which the action takes place is also considered because an act might be flawed through its circumstances. For instance, while Christians are bound to profess one's belief in God, there are certain situations in which it is inappropriate or even offensive and distasteful to do so. The last feature of human action is called the end. It stands for the agent's intention. An act might be unjust through its intentions. To intend to direct oneself against a good is clearly immoral. Aquinas gives murder, lying, and blasphemy as instantations of this ill will. Correspondingly, a bad intention can spoil a good act, like giving of alms out of vainglory. Nonetheless, an intention, no matter how good it may be, cannot redeem a bad act. For Aquinas, theft is intrinsically bad. Hence, instilling to give to the poor, as in case of Robin Hood, is an unjust act. In this view, converting to a particular religion, let's say Christianity, merely for material gains is an unjust act. Aquinas' ethical theory states that for an action to be moral, the kind it belongs to must not be bad. The circumstances must be appropriate and the intention must be uh, virtuous. So, those are features of human actions, and hopefully, we can be guided by the philosophy in St. Thomas Aquinas in evaluating and reflecting in our own action.